I was looking forward to today all week because, of course, today was the day that Jake and Rebecca were due in court. Now, I wasn't expecting too much to happen in court, but I was thinking that maybe something would happen afterwards. I was thinking maybe we would get another press conference, something, an update as to how the search efforts are going, in the search for Emmanuel. Because last time we heard from law enforcement, they basically said, hey, we think we know where he is. Shut up and stop talking about it. And since then, they have said nothing. Not just that, though. There have been no active on-the-ground searches for Emmanuel since then. Now, that's not to say that investigators aren't hard at work doing their job. I'm sure they're tracing, phone calls, pinging the phone, figuring out where Jake and Rebecca went during, the time in question. But to tell people that, hey, we think we know where he is, stop talking about it, and to just let us sit there day in and day out with no updates. I understand that they're not going to tell us everything. But we're dealing with a case where Jake and Rebecca are already in jail. They already charged them with murder. So I understand they're not going to tell the public everything, but I feel like they could give at least a little more information than what they are. But maybe they don't have any information to give. But I just find that to be kind of awkward because you said you kind of have a good idea as to where the baby is. So I think it's about that time that they let the general public know what they're doing to find the baby, or if they're even going to try to find the baby. As far as Jake and Rebecca's court date, though, they were only in court for a few minutes. They both pled not guilty, and that was to be expected. But for a second there, I was wondering, is someone going to shake things up here? Because we've heard people talking, we've seen the reports about, confessions, Jake cooperating. We saw Jake out on the side of the road. So even though I figured they would both plead non-guilty, I was still wondering if there was a possibility that there would be a shakeup today in court. But they were on the news talking about this. They provided a little bit more information that I want you guys to check out really quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and roll a clip, and then I'll be right back with more thoughts.
This now developing news, the parents of baby Emmanuel Haro have just been arraigned on murder charges. And Gigi Gracia was in the courtroom joining us live with this very latest update. Gigi, what can you tell us?
That's right. This arraignment lasted all of 10 minutes, and both Jake Haro, through his public defenders, and Rebecca Haro, through her court-appointed private attorney, entered a plea of not guilty. Now, I believe we have some video. This was just recorded, has not been edited. We saw Jake Haro come into the courtroom. He's wearing that red jumpsuit, which indicates he is not part of the general population in jail. He is kept separate for his own protection because of the charges that he is facing. Rebecca Haro was wearing blue. We didn't see the color of her pants, which apparently determines, but we do not believe she is part of the general population either. Again, both of them entering pleas of not guilty through their attorneys. They really didn't speak. Jake said, "Good morning, Your Honor." Then he acknowledged, and you're looking live at that video right there. You see Jeff Moore. He is the court-appointed private attorney for Rebecca Haro. He stood right in front of her. She is sitting behind him. Jake and Rebecca were on opposite sides of the courtroom. Both of them brought in through separate doors. I did not see either of them look at each other at any time. I may have missed a glance, but Jake Haro kept his eyes on the judge, and Rebecca was covered by, again, her attorney that you see there, Jeff Moore, and he is from Blumenthal and Moore. That is a law firm that works with the county of Riverside, the Riverside County Public Defender's Office. They are appointed by the court. Next important dates, they have what's called a let me get that right here, the Felony Settlement Conference. That is also referred to as a Trial Readiness Conference. That date has been been set for September 16th. And basically, the lawyers come together with the judge, with the defendants in this case, and talk about the trial, their readiness for the trial, what they expect, and if there's a plea deal that is reached. And I want to note here that the Riverside County District Attorney Mike Hestron said there were no plea deals in the works, but again, that was last week, so things could have changed. That will be discussed on September 16th. On September 17th, the next day, that is the scheduled start date for the preliminary hearing, often referred to simply as the prelim. The prelim is where we will hear, most likely, not all of the evidence the prosecution has against the Haros, but just enough to convince the judge that there is cause that they be held over for trial on charges of murder in the death of their baby boy, Emmanuel Haro, only 7 months old when he was reported missing on the 14th. His parents telling police he had been kidnapped from a parking lot in Ukaipa. Investigators now saying that is not true. That never happened. And in court documents, they list the date of possible death between August the 5th and August the 14th. August 5th, most likely the last day that investigators can independently confirm that the baby was indeed alive. And I want to reiterate, his body remains have not been found yet. Again, mark your calendar if you're following the case of baby Emmanuel, September 16th and September 17th for a prelim. Of course, those dates could always change. But once again, Jake and Rebecca Haro entering pleas today to not guilty to charges they murdered their son.
So they both pleaded not guilty. And I want to hear from you guys down in the comments below. Does this change how you view the case? Does this change anything for you? For me personally, this isn't a surprise at all. But at the same time, there was a lot of stuff going around. That Jake was possibly talking behind bars, talking to someone. Also, I thought there was a possibility that maybe Jake would have flipped all the way on Rebecca by now, and maybe he has. But I just don't know what to think about this case right now. Because I think Jake being out on the side of the road means that he's working with law enforcement a little bit. But in the interview that he did, he was talking very highly of Rebecca. And I do think he's trying to manipulate her. But I guess what I'm trying to ask you guys is, now that they have both pleaded guilty, do you still believe a lot of the things that we heard about Jake talking? Are you still looking at, the fact that he was on the side of the road with law enforcement? Are you still looking at that the same way? Because I'm kind of scratching my head a little bit when it comes to this case. It's not a very confusing case, but I'm really just trying to get a read on Jake. Because I feel like I already have a read on Rebecca. I think Rebecca's just playing it solid, not saying anything. Jake, though, he's a snake. Jake the snake. He's a snake. He's a slimy, slithery son of a gun. And I'm really trying to figure out his angle. Because he's definitely up to something here, if you ask me. So I'm trying to figure out what his angle is here. Because there's a little more going on with Jake as opposed to Rebecca. So, like I said, seeing them plead not guilty, not very surprising, but at the same time, I feel like maybe that puts some of the stuff to rest that we were thinking, was possibly happening behind the scenes. But I did come across this interesting post from SF Investigates that I want to read for you guys really quickly. He says right here, Rebecca Haro's lawyer intends to file a motion to move her case to the Banning courthouse. He said this is because it's closer to the alleged crime scene in Cabazon. This seems like an indication that law enforcement has indicated to Rebecca they believe Emmanuel Haro died at the house in Cabazon. That was already assumed by most, but it is still an interesting possible confirmation. The true reason for the change of courthouse is most likely judge shopping. And yeah, I do believe that investigators said that they believe, they didn't confirm for a fact, but they believed that whatever happened to Emmanuel happened to him inside of that home. But I guess they think that something happened to him there, but his remains were dispersed or disposed of somewhere else. Because, I don't know, I feel like they did not search that property as thoroughly as I thought they would have, which makes you believe that they have a strong indication, like they said, that he's somewhere else. But I don't know. Every day goes by and I'm thinking I'm going to wake up and, oh, they're going to be out here searching for Emmanuel. They're going to be over there searching for Emmanuel. But it's still nothing. And the clock is ticking. And time is going by fast. The days just keep on going by, folks. And I think we're looking at a possibility where there's never going to be a recovery effort. And I've mentioned that in previous videos. But for now, I want to hear from you guys. What do you think about this not guilty plea? What do you think about all of this going on? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all very soon in the next one.